The League of the Genuine Conversations with me, Fred Muwema, is back. This week, we continue our discussions relating to the business sector, enterprise industry. We have big issues there concerning fake products and services. We've had 3-4 episodes going into this already, where we have had several fast-moving consumer goods. We've had experts who have helped you, and we hope you've benefited, to identify, to differentiate between the genuine and fake versions of those products. As always, this is the only show that deals with counterfeit products and services. So we hope you enjoy it. We hope you can continue tuning in. And this week, we woke up to news of yet another building collapse. This building collapse was reported somewhere on Entebbe Road, around Wankulukuk area, and one person lost their life. But this is not the first time that we're having issues with buildings collapsing. Here on the League of the Genuine, we think there's a direct connection between buildings collapsing and people dying with the quality of building materials that are used, with the workmanship, with the escort standards of people who are building these structures. But you will notice that this year we've already had, in March, a story reported of a building, I think it's Fido Dido on Kampala Road, a building that was being used as a church. People were having lunchtime prayer and the roof just caved in. The reports indicate that 13 people were critically injured. Unfortunately, we don't know how many of them made it or how many survived. Before that, we had a lot of reports as well. In Ginger in 2020, some building on Madivani Road collapsed, and the numbers we have is that some 5 people died. Again, no investigation was carried out. We don't know whether it was the cement, we don't know whether it was the masons, we don't know whether it was the electricals that caused the issue. Last year, here in Kampala, in Lukuli, this time the harvest was big. 15 workers died. And we are saying, as the League of the Genuine, that this cannot go on endlessly. We need to put a stop to it. We got a lot of feedback from you. Many of you think that the show is only interested in hearing from people my age, that we are ignoring the youth, that we are not taking them into account enough to come and be part of the show. So for a change, we have decided to get some youthful professional in the area of building construction. We have a youthful architect here who has been kind enough to join us. Please join me in welcoming our guest for today's episode, Architect Sophie Balunywa. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Architect Sophie Balunywa is a distinguished architect already. I was seeing your profile here. You have studied in Southern University in Louisiana.
Yes, I have.
In the US. You also have an MBA. You have been, if you like, a lecturer at the same university. You've also been a lecturer here at the Makerere University.
Yes.
You've been teaching construction. You call it construction.
Teaching in the Department of Construction, Economics and Management.
In the Department of Construction,
Economics and Management. Yes.
The question is it because you are a professor's daughter that you have already done a lot of these things? She is Professor Balunywa's daughter, the principal of Makerere University Business School.
Yes.
How have you managed to do all this in the short time, less than 10 years that you've been in the field?
You find time.
You find time?
I find time, yes, I find time. If I like something, I'll find time to do it. And I enjoy teaching. I thought I'd never teach, but funny enough, I guess I've been teaching since college. And
it could be your father's influence.
Not really, maybe not directly, but we have a lot of teachers in the family. So somehow you teach, you find yourself teaching. I enjoy teaching, even if it's the smallest thing. Even if it's teaching someone something on the phone, I'll do it.
You enjoy teaching, but,
yeah.
But Sophie, I don't think you enjoy in your profession doing work and designing buildings and seeing projects coming up only to cave in and kill people. Do you architects have a feeling, how do you feel when your design work ends up killing people? Do you feel some responsibility for the guys who get buried into the debris of collapsed buildings?
I think we do, to a certain point, yes, because we are part of this project, right? We feel some responsibility towards it, but at the end of the day, it's about finding out who is actually responsible for the deaths that occur when these buildings collapse. So yes, we have some responsibility. They are babies. When you design something, when you do something, it's yours. You feel some type of way. Even when you just change the tile. If I told you to use this tile, I feel some type of way, but I just have to manage it. So human beings, the death of a person has an effect on anybody. If the death of your neighbor has an effect on you, what about the death of somebody that has been killed by something that you are a part of?
There is a general, what can I call it? A general feeling that you, the millennials, might be responsible for a lot of the decline that we have in most of the professions, whether it's medicine, law, accounting, even architecture. The accusation levied against you is that you guys like quick fixes, get rich quick, you have this sense of entitlement and so on, that therefore, in a way, you are bringing those attitudes to the profession. You might find maybe the architect on this project or some of these projects, maybe they were young people, maybe they were not experienced enough. Do you think in your profession as young architects, you are contributing to the decline in standards, the collapse of building and the death of people? Who is to blame here?
Not one person is to blame. One, I'll first start with the millennial comment. We blame millennials for a number of things, but millennials were raised by the generation before them. So you are who you are based off of the circumstances that you've come through. If you are raised a certain way, you will act a certain way. The older generation has failed to leave the offices. We can't make any money.
The older generation
has failed to leave the offices. You want a job, but somebody who should have retired 10 years ago has it. So if I am 30, I have a family, I have this, and I'm earning 500,000, of course people are going to start doing get-rich-quick schemes. Because no, people are not retiring. People are not leaving the jobs. So you can't blame the millennials for this. We have to put the blame on everyone. One, the millennials were raised by the generation in office. And two, yes, we want get-rich-quick things because we can't afford, it's what we have now, and we need them, but we can't actually afford them. So many people are out there trying to get things, but the jobs that they have don't pay them enough. So you end up having to haggle, have this job, have that job, do this, start a small business where you get counterfeits because you can sell them much faster, right? So you need the money, and at the end of the day, we can't blame just the millennials. Now, if I bring that into perspective in regards to the Architects Registration Board, we can't say it's age. Why?
Are there young people on the board, or they are my age?
They're older than me. I'm not sure how old you are. And as a lady, I'm not supposed to tell you my age. But
you must be 15, I think.
Yeah, let's go with 25, actually.
Yeah, okay.
We do things a certain way. You have to be, in order for you to become an architect, you should have gone through a certain amount of training. You'll sit the exams, and you qualify to become an architect, right? So we can't blame it on youth. The people on the board who give us the qualifications are not youth, right? So we can't blame...
So their perspective and the way of seeing things is different, you're saying?
Yes, definitely different.
But Sophie, you can't escape from this as a youthful person, because for you, you have a job.
Yes.
You're an architect at a leading firm, Symbion.
Yes.
You've been chanced to handle big projects. So you're working.
Yes.
And one of the issues here is that the young people, even when they have a chance to work, they don't want to work. You hear a lot of the expatriates, for example, saying we have an issue with the Ugandan employees the productivity is so low. They will have excuses to go for a burial, to go for a party, I am sick. So it's not entirely true that the older people are not leaving office or are not giving a chance to you to work.
I think it also goes back to individuals, right? And generally, Ugandans, honestly, are known as very lazy people. You can't get anything out of a government office after such an hour, right? Everything moves. It's status quo. That's how everything runs in Uganda, at least as far as I'm concerned. Everything is slow moving. Too much. Yes, it's laissez-faire. So it rubs off on the youth. Yeah, we take responsibility of it because we are part of it too, right? We contribute towards whatever is happening, but we can't be
And remember, you're the majority. You're 80% of the population.
Yes, but then again, we're not it's not we didn't choose to be here either, right? So the way you raise your children also has an impact on how they will behave, minus the people they interact with, their peers, etc. Yes, that also has a major effect. But all of us have to take responsibility, right? From the people at the top to the bottom, to the youth, right? Yes, we are lazy, we don't want to work, but that's not entirely true. Sometimes it's also motivation. What's the motivation for working? A lot of us go to school to do things that we don't even like to do, but because our parents told us to do. So if I wanted to be a dancer and I go to school for accounts and I get an accounting job, do you really think I'm going to be motivated to work? I'm only there to earn a paycheck.
So now, like you,
were you
motivated to be an architect, yes, or you wanted to be a queen dancer, for example?
I wanted to be a pilot first, then I wanted to be an architect. I'm an architect. I enjoy what I do. I don't slack off, and even if I do, I'll make it up.
You make it up.
Yeah.
Now that you're an architect,
yes,
by calling,
yeah,
we have a big problem, which we feel that you can help to resolve.
Yeah.
This thing of buildings collapsing, failure of construction, or failure of the buildings, as an architect, as a professional, can you tell us what is informing it? What is causing it? And does failure of construction occur after the building has collapsed or even before? Well,
okay, we're talking about building failure. A building failing is not necessarily because it fell, right? A building fails on a multitude of things, okay? It can fail because it's not usable, right? We have a number of buildings that cannot be used. I'll give you an example of, you have a public building, but a person in a wheelchair can't access it. That building has failed. Or you have a
has failed the standard.
Yeah, it has failed the standards. Because failure is not necessarily, failure is as long as you don't meet the standards, you failed.
Where are those standards found? Do we have a building code, for example?
Yes, we have a national building code. We have, or the information is available on the National Building Review Board or the Architects Registration Board. The information is available, it just has to be disseminated into the environment.
So you're saying a failure in the building construction can even occur at the foundation level if you're not having provision for, like, the wheelchairs for the...
Yeah, that's failure.
So
yeah.
But where does the architect come in there? How come that building gets up to completion and they put the paint and the architect was looking?
I think, let me explain the role of the architect. Okay, so our role is to design. That's the first thing. We design the buildings that you use. So someone designed this space based off of the client's requirements. Okay, we don't usually give you what you don't want. Let's say you're my client, you come to me and you want a hotel. I will design a hotel. I will design that hotel to code. We have certain codes that we follow, right? So you design the building to code. When you submit this drawings to the council approves your building based off of the code and the use. Okay? Now, apart from an architect being a designer, we also represent our clients, right? When we need to interact with different people.
The plan.
Yes.
With the planning authority.
Yes, you can, but the client can represent themselves.
Because you usually submit them.
Yeah, you can submit yourself, but the architect can also submit on your behalf. Okay, so when we're done with that, we have your building. When your building is approved to go up, it has been approved with all those things proper size of toilets. That can also be a building failure. And I'm sure some people have been to town where you go into a place and you open the door and you can't use the toilet. Or you go into a kitchen and there's not enough space for you to turn around. All these are hazards. Or things like buildings being too close, people building the whole extent of the plot. Those are fire and safety problems, right? People don't understand.
What should you build? How far off the margin of the
2
plot?
meters.
2 meters.
Yeah, and also depends on where you are. Codes change, right? But right now, the current code is supposed to apply across the whole of Uganda. Previously, our codes in Kira would be different from the codes of Kampala, from the codes of Wakiso. And that's one of the problems that we've been having. But there's been an initiative to make sure we have one uniform code. Like in the USA, you'll find that someone is using the International Building Code, right? You could have a Canadian code or etc. But
we have a Ugandan code.
Yes, we have a Ugandan code. We have a National Building Code. So you're supposed to design based off of that code.
So what does the code say about the materials to be used?
The code specifically tells you the type of materials to use and the ones not to use. Because when you're looking at types of materials, we're looking at quality, fire resistance, etc. There are a number of factors, yes, to consider. So they will tell you for a school, you can use this. For a home, you can use this. For a hotel, you can use this, right? So the code tells you what you should be able to do, how much space you need if you have persons with disabilities, how many toilets you should have, what the piping should look like. Because you might do 50 toilets and you have a pipe that's 4 inches wide and it doesn't work, which creates a problem with sanitation. Right? So there are a number of ways in which the buildings will fail. So as an architect, yes, our designs will be submitted to the council. The council approves your building to say it has met the codes, right? The rules and regulations, and you are approved to build. Now, buildings fail in a number of ways. Probably a lack of supervision.
Supervision.
Yes, that's one of them.
Supervision is a requirement for any proper building to come
For any proper building, it should be supervised. Now, the reason they fail is this. When you are designing a building, supervision is not a part of it. Those are two different scopes of work.
Who does the supervision? Is it an architect also?
It can be an architect. It can be a civil engineer. It can be an engineer. It can be anybody that you believe is able to supervise.
So can I supervise my own construction? As a lawyer, I can go on the site and say, please lift, put down, stop.
Then you will be held liable for whatever happens.
No, is there qualification?
Yes, there are qualifications
who can supervise?
now. Yes, they're making it, they put certain qualifications such that we now have checklists, and certain architects or engineers are responsible for supervision.
So the
buildings.
supervisor should be an engineer?
An engineer or an architect, yes.
So that's the site engineer?
Depends. No, the supervisor doesn't have to be the site engineer. The supervisor can also be the architect. You can also have a site engineer, but you need somebody else to also oversee the site engineer. So it depends. You can.
But doesn't the supervisory role increase the cost?
Yes, it does.
Of building.
It does.
And so don't you think that is
one of the reasons.
Disincentive for not stingy but for cash-strapped Ugandans not to spend on supervision?
But that's actually where I was going with the fact that one of the reasons buildings fail is because people don't want to pay for supervision. Because a person would like to pay a certain amount of money to design the building, but they don't understand in terms of supervision, you'll have to come to site, you spend time to go around, you have to be paid. So there's a certain amount of money that has to be done.
The report, the media report on this building that collapsed in Kitebi, indicated that when the media reached the site, they called them the engineer, or the engineer and supervisor wasn't there, and there was no trace of somebody who had authority over the, so meaning probably that this building had failed in many areas, including supervision.
Yes, that's probably one of them. But buildings don't fail only because of supervision. So a building will fail because of low quality, poor quality materials, fake cement, right? Fake bars. That's one thing, right? Or not even low quality, but poorly manufactured. You might have defects in the bars that you made, right? So a building could collapse because of
just
that.
walk us through maybe 2 or 3 items.
Yes.
Building materials that if they were fake.
Okay, so
which are the common fake building materials we have? Can we start from the basic? Maybe sand.
yes.
Do we have fake sand?
We have, well, it's adulterated sand. Sand is supposed to be clean, and it should be of a certain quality.
Clean,
Yes.
like it should be washed.
Well, it should be free of non-sand-like items. It should be free of grass. It should be free of all these things because it reduces the bonding. There's a chemical process that happens between cement, water, and sand.
But I have seen
concrete to
sand,
cure.
Sophie, I have seen sand that is on a site and then some grass grew inside.
Yes,
and
it's
some
supposed to be
insects are playing.
cleaned.
So that's not good for building.
No. You're supposed to get that sand and clean it, sieve it, take out the grass, take out the stones, take out the soil. Because when you are mixing, the mixture to make concrete does not include grass. Concrete is supposed to be cement, sand, and water. And possibly
Sophie,
some
realistically,
aggregate.
how do you, because you make an order for a trip of sand.
Yes.
So you're going to sieve a truckload of sand? Or
Doesn't-
you go to the place of purchase and see that it's clean?
This is the problems that we're having. We need to be able to manage quality all the way from our sources. We can't blame the end person because the problem comes from far. The problem comes from the person giving us fake cement, right? Or not even fake cement, a person claiming that cement is 50 kilos and it's actually 40. Because when I'm mixing, if we decided to mix this bottle of water,
And it's supposed to be 500 milliliters.
yes, but then I mix with 400, you're changing the ratios.
Do we
You're changing
actually
the quality.
Do we actually have issues of underweight cement on the market? Have you heard of anything
I've
like
heard
that?
of someone saying that one of the cement companies, I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but their cement is at, instead of 50 kilos, it's at 40 or 45. It depends. So I'm not sure if it's fake cement or the company is actually selling us less cement. And yet when we are doing ratios on site, when we talk about mix, I don't know if you've built before, I'm sure you have, they'll tell you to do 1 to 3 to 6, right? 1 means 1 bag of cement, which is 50 kilos, then equivalents of the same thing if we're doing ratios. So if we know that it's supposed to be 50 kilos of cement.
That is 40.
Yes, but it's
So-
40. You're reducing the amount of cement that's supposed to be in the mix, which means you're also reducing the strength and quality of your work. So these problems don't stem from just the architects and the designers and the engineers. They stem from even our suppliers. So the supplier of cement, right? If you give me fake cement, a few years ago there was someone selling cement, there was bags of cement and soil. Some people are mixing the cement with other particles. They might mix in something, some other form of dust, right? You are getting poor quality steel. There's nothing like building a 10-storied building and the steel cannot withhold the building, right? So there's a problem with quality control.
But Sophie, the executive director
Yes.
of Uganda Manufacturers Association was
Yes.
on this show, and he spoke to the quality of Ugandan steel.
Yes.
He said that during the building of Karuma,
Yes.
there were some issues about the quality of our steel, and then our steel was tested, and it beat even the foreign steel
Yes.
suppliers. Is this something you resonate with? Is that your experience?
I can't tell because I haven't seen any reports that say the steel failed. So sometimes what happens is not, the steel doesn't fail because of quality. The steel fails because maybe the engineer decided instead of using 6 bars, he uses 4. And the 2 end up being his. So on top of buildings also fail because of unscrupulous individuals. People steal.
That is quantity. What
Yes.
about quality? The gauge.
The gauge, I have no comment on the gauge.
Maybe because you're working in a big architect's firm, so you're dealing with elite projects, malls, and all these issues. So probably there the controls are higher. But the ordinary projects, the ordinary person would be having issues. When you see the building has collapsed, if you see some of the pictures, you see
Yeah.
that the steel, the columns just gave way. There must be an issue.
The columns don't give way because of only steel. right? The columns give way because of design.
Design.
Yes. So if a building is going to be 10-story and the structure engineer said you need to use maybe 16 bars of Y12 or something like that, and the contractor decides to use 14 bars, a column might give way because you reduced the quantity of bars, which reduces the strength of the building, of the column. So it gives way. So it looks like it bent, it is, yes, because the weight of the building was so heavy that the number of bars that were prescribed for that column
were not used.
Not used. So that's what I'm saying.
So the fakeness here is also in the workmanship.
It's also in the workmanship. Because people steal materials to use them on other sites or to sell them. So it becomes also a money issue. If you suspect, we as supervisor, we can't be on site all day, every day. So I might come to site and you've already poured the concrete. So unless I suspect that you used less steel, I'll ask you to open it up. But you see, if we do contracts, depending on who, when you open up this work, someone has to pay for it, right?
But all these things we're talking about,
yes,
who is in charge of controlling the building standards?
The client, one. Because
but client is somebody like me, a lay
exactly.
person. I would. So how do I control what I don't know about?
In my experience, clients, you will prescribe something on a drawing, and when the contractor gives you a cost, a price, you say it's too expensive. So the contractor gives you an option and says, let's use the cement, or let's use a smaller bar, it will do the same thing. I did it on the other project. And you say, oh, okay. 50
so when
million
we
versus
complain
100
about
million?
when we complain about the cost,
yeah,
why don't you advise and say you can't get better than this?
We do
for
advise.
this kind of project.
We do advise, but clients also, because a number of clients have built before, they will also tell you have done it before. One of the biggest misconceptions I've seen, especially here, is the idea of 1 bag of cement equals 1 wheelbarrow of cement.
Yeah, I've had that.
That's not correct.
So
That's
1
not
wheelbarrow
it.
is how many bags of cement?
It's not about the wheelbarrows. It has nothing to do with barrows. I don't know if you've ever noticed that there's a batching box on site. There's a small cube you're supposed to use. It's where you pour the cement. The sand is supposed to be, yes, the same box. But somewhere, somehow, I'm not sure where this came from, the idea is 1 bag of cement is 1 wheelbarrow. The volumes are not the same, right? So people have been building longer and longer. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm sure there are very many things. I am an architect, but there's some things I won't be able to tell my dad. He's been building longer than me because he has it from experience. Someone will tell you, I used a ratio of 1 to 4 to 10 on this site and it's still standing. And the fact that the building is still standing,
maybe even you were born in that building,
yes,
and you went from there.
So that person will tell you it's justification, but doesn't mean it's right. Because we're lucky, we have good weather, we rarely have earthquakes, things like that. So the buildings sometimes are not put to a test. If a building was actually put to a test, it would probably fail. So because of our usual standards of building, our normal standard of way of doing things, like that example of 1 bag of cement, 1 wheelbarrow, that's totally wrong. But it's what we do. And everybody believes it's correct.
So do we have a regulatory authority? Who controls these standards? Who is there to police and sanction any fake behavior on building sites?
We have right now we have the National Building Review Board.
National Building Review Board.
Yes, they are mandated to monitor sites and inspect, review drawings, sorry, not review drawings, but monitor sites and inspect. Also they tell you how much you're supposed to pay on site. So all that information can be given to you by somebody from the National Building Review Board.
This board, is it a board made of architects, engineers, electricians?
It's a mixture of everybody because the built environment or the construction industry has so many people. So everyone has been represented because we have planners, we have electrical engineers, we have mechanical engineers, we have structure engineers, we have architects. We have very many different people or different professions in the building industry. So all these people have been represented because I cannot speak on behalf of electrical engineers. I don't know what volumes we need for air in a space. Okay?
But don't you think, because I'm seeing here, the National I've opened their site here.
Their website,
National
yes.
Building
Review Board, yes.
Review Board. They're actually reporting the incident in Kitebi.
In Kitebi, yes.
And what they are saying, our team is already on the ground to assess the cause of the accident. So it looks like this board's work is to wait for the collapse, then they go there.
No, that's not their work. We have checklists that you're supposed
They go
to
before,
follow.
like they went when this site was coming up, this building was coming up.
Now, there has to be cooperation between the client, architect, everyone involved in the building process, right? So there are certain steps. When your building is approved for building, you're given a checklist of things that should be followed. So when you reach a certain stage, you're supposed to inform the city council or the municipal that it's time for review, right? So you're supposed to do this at every stage. But because people want to build and finish, a number of people do not inform because the council doesn't have the manpower to go around checking everyone's site. Sorry, the board or even the council, the city council, wherever you're building. The board or even city council, they don't have the manpower to always check every site. So it's upon also the client, right, and the contractors to inform these individuals that we have reached the step ready for supervision.
So what you're saying is that a lot of sites in this town,
Yeah.
in this country, are unchecked or unsupervised by the Building Review Board.
Yes, because they're not informed. A lot of people have money and want to build in one go, and people don't like to follow rules because they stop them from achieving their goals. If you want to build in 6 months, but you know that every 2 months, 3 months, or every time you have this stage, you have to apply for someone to come and review your building, then they let you go ahead, you'll just keep building until maybe they're making a routine check in the area, then they catch you and you've already gone 6 floors.
So you're saying this board is probably having competency issues?
No.
Because the board came up,
Yes.
was only established physically, operationalized last year.
Yes.
Despite the fact that it was put in place in the law, the Building Control Act, 7 years ago. So maybe the guys who were supposed to constitute the board were sleeping for 7 years, and they only woke up after so many collapse of buildings to put themselves to work. Do you see an issue? Is it a resource problem or an internal competence issue of the board?
I don't want to say it's an internal competence issue of the board because I can't blame a board that didn't exist before, right?
But since it existed, we have had almost 50 people dying, so many buildings collapsing. I don't know whether the media reportage has increased, but more and more buildings are collapsing and killing people when the board is there. So are you saying, as an architect, are you saying that maybe the board needs more support? The fact that it was established too late, does it need more power? Can it do better? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I can't say it was established too late because I don't know why the board, they took so long to establish the board. In terms of manpower at the moment, I believe the board is working around the clock.
At its best?
Yes, because we have so many buildings already existing that have to be also reviewed and assessed, right? Like the 500, I think this is in May when they condemned about 500 buildings, right? So on top of that, you also have the new buildings going up.
The new sites.
Yes. So there's a lot of work to do to also catch up for all the old things that were not organized before. So right now, there's an effort to try and organize building.
So they are overwhelmed.
And construction in Uganda. I can't
in
speak,
a way.
I can't speak on their behalf, but I can assume, if I'm making an assumption, yes.
If you cannot speak as a member of the
National Building Review Board?
No, you're not, but that you
Yes.
are represented in that board because it's made under the, I know that under the architect's registration, you have an inclusion in the board.
Yes.
And since you are not the official spokesperson of the board, it's only fair if we can get access to the director or executive secretary of this board. I think it's only fair that they come and speak to these issues, because for us, we are concerned about genuineness.
Yes.
Genuine building construction. Genuine does not lead to death of poor masons or workers who have died on site.
Yes.
And genuine also means that there should be sanctions.
Yeah.
Does the board take sanctions? Are you aware of sanctions that have been taken for any of the collapsed buildings?
Personally, I'm not, but I'm sure they are, because the board is working with the, is it DPP? To
Director
persecute,
of Public
yes,
Prosecutions.
to persecute any persons that are responsible for deaths and
To
collapse of
prosecute
buildings.
them,
Yes.
yeah.
So they're mandated to do that, and I believe they should be doing it. I don't follow up on the information of what happens or who was liable or who paid for this building that fell here and there.
Sophie, do you have, I know for you, you're qualified, you went to an American university. Have you heard of fake architects?
Yes.
And we have fake architects actually.
Yes, we do.
How do they walk? How do they dress?
Just like you and me.
And how do they arise?
Well, see, we have very few architects, unfortunately. And to be an architect, one thing, let's clear this up. An architect is a person that's been licensed by the Architects Registration Board, registered, and is also a member of the Uganda Society of Architects, right? So this information is available. They publish it in the papers. They will always publish a list of the licensed.
How many licensed architects do we have?
Well, practicing, we have about 200 and something.
200?
Yes.
200 architects. So assuming you deployed the 200 architects to all the sites, building construction sites in the country, how many architects to how many sites? One architect to 50 sites?
I think that's also an understatement, but we're not enough. We're not enough, unfortunately, but we're not enough. So.
But we improvise. We have some local guys, engineer, you know.
Yes, we have engineers. So that's why
those are taking your
architects
place.
can be in supervisory positions, okay? Because as an architect, if I come to a site and you also have a legitimate engineer, because we also have quack engineers, the engineers who learned on site, right? The self-appointed engineers, because he was there on site and he learned the things, doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing, right?
He's learned on the job.
Yeah, he's learned on the job. But we also have...
so why are you guys jealous of those guys who have learned on the job?
We're not.
They're very skilled, eh?
We're not. Actually, I find that some of them they know more about building than we do.
Yeah, so why don't you then organize them as your building review board to certify them? Like, you know, these herbalists,
that's actually,
they have also been brought into the mainstream.
That's an initiative that's happening right now. So the National Building Review Board is doing a lot of things. I can't talk on their behalf, but as far as I'm concerned, that's one thing they're doing, because they've noticed that the issue of having quack engineers is a big problem. Because when you come to a legitimate engineer who also pays taxes and follows rules and hires equipment, because also equipment is expensive, they tend to be more expensive than your usual engineer. So most people...
Usually the ones who speak too much English, you guys, you're very expensive. Your rates, I don't know how much
supposedly, per hour. Yes. So people tend to pick people who are cheaper. Cheaper is not necessarily good. So if you're building somewhere in Mukono, in a remote area, and your building falls, you used a quack architect, right? And quack architect means there are very many people drawing plans. You can go to Kampala Road and get a plan. Why? Because someone can print something from the internet and give it to you. Doesn't mean anything, right? We have problems in every field. So we have also a problem in the engineering field, the people who actually build this. But there's an initiative. The initiative is there to try and streamline everything. But at the end of the day, the problem is not just the architect. The problem is it comes from so far. It comes from materials. It comes from our suppliers. It comes from the engineers. It comes from theft, right? It comes from negligence. It comes from even the client himself. Very many clients will speed up a project because you know that your supervisor comes every 2 weeks. You'll do so much in 2 weeks so that they can approve that next part.
When it's already done.
Yeah, it's already done. So when I reach on site and things are there, then you come and I tell you break it, the client's going to say, I already spent money. I can't break it.
You cannot talk about fake architects without talking about the training of architects.
Okay.
Our school of, is it architecture or architects? How do you call it?
Architecture, yeah.
Architecture at Mackay University was only established in 1984.
Yes.
So this is a fairly new profession. The School of Law is a 1970s thing. So we're older than you guys. But
it's not a competition, but okay.
yes. So if you're talking of fake architects, somebody out there might be asking, what are you talking about? When we built the Kasumi tombs in 1882, and we didn't have the School of Architecture, it only came, how many years are those? 100 years later. So don't you think we have some natural architects who don't need your
expertise,
and so on? Those local guys who built Kasumi tombs, for example.
You know, I always...
They did a marvelous job. This is even a UNESCO heritage site. How many things have you built which are heritage sites? So the guys of 1882 were not qualified as architects, but they put up something. So this training of architects and so on, why don't we maybe tap into our local traditional guys? We could have architects there.
Well, I don't know who built the Kasumi tombs, honestly.
But they were built, you know.
They were built. Same thing as the pyramids of Giza, same thing as the Parthenon or all those buildings.
So don't you think that probably this colonization destroyed some natural bed of architects that we had locally, and maybe it's time to go back to those guys?
Well, it depends. Things have changed. Materials have changed. We don't build the same thing. What's called skills transfer is not happening as maybe as it used to. Okay. Yes, the School of Architecture is pretty young, 1980, I think 1984. But it doesn't mean that there were not other people who are qualified to do the work. People were going to school outside the country before. So there were architects that went to school outside the country, and are probably the ones who started the School of Architecture. So there have always been qualified individuals. They're just fewer. The School of Architecture has always been almost like a kind of elite kind of thing. There have always been fewer entrants. If you notice, when they admit students, they don't admit 50. Might admit maybe 20, 25. I'm not sure about my career, but when I was...
During our time, I think there were like 10, 15.
Yeah, so at a time you have there are few, but then population has increased. The numbers have increased. The problems have increased. Technology is changing. So we have a lot of problems, and I think the architects need to figure out how to solve that issue in terms of numbers, right? But when we're talking about fake architects, we're talking about people who are perpetrating as architects, right? We have very many people who will tell you Nkuba plan. You'll have
somewhere in the corner on the street.
On the street, I'm telling you, if you go to Kampala Road right now, you'll get people who give you floor plans, and they'll be stamped. So we have also some things that the architects are fighting internally, because we have so many people producing work, right, that is not correct. But we're not enough either. So yes, we might want to fight this big battle of architects should be in charge of everything, but if you have 10,000 projects that need to be built in 1 year and you have 200 architects, what are you going to do? So that's a different story, and I'm sure someone will bash me in the architect registration board, but that's something else. So the fake architects are people just acting like architects, because a structural engineer could be an architect because he has seen so many buildings, he even has the copies, he can draw something. He doesn't have the design ideas behind it as to why we do certain things, so they repeat them. A lot of these guys are not architects, they just copy and paste, especially the engineers. If he built you a house in Masindi, he'll give you the same house to put in Wakiso.
So just change the shape of the canopy, and
because he'll tell you it's not difficult. So that's why when you enter some of these buildings, they actually don't work. They fail in terms of design. You enter and the toilet is too small, or you enter and you have steps where they're not supposed to be, or you enter and you can't use the kitchen.
The water stays on the veranda, there's drainage.
Things like that. So those are our fake architects, right? There are a number of people who have been trained. Yes, we have people who have been trained, maybe they didn't finish architecture school, or they've not passed the exams and they're working, right? The society frowns upon them because they should also be licensed. But like I said, that's a story,
okay,
a different
fake
story.
architects.
Yes.
Are there fake clients as well?
Or what is a
if
fake
I have
client?
If I have built several properties, so you will come onto the site and say, no, you must change that. This must face that way, or it must a lot because you're the paymaster.
Yes.
You actually
you
take over.
You call the shots.
So
yes.
What's your message to guys out there who are building? Where should they start and where should they stop?
Well, one, they need to listen to their designers, because
even if they are paying them,
the client needs to listen to the architect within reason, obviously, because sometimes some are design issues that can be avoided. But if you're also not comfortable with your architect, you can contact the Architects
I go
Registration
to
Board
the
or
board.
Uganda Society of Architects and get
Yeah.
another one, right? They're architects, so even when you have a problem with your architect, you can get another one. If I have a problem with you as a client and you've refused, I've told you you need to do this because this is the code, I have a right to leave.
But you need the money.
No. Yes, that's the problem. That is the problem. You need the money, so you keep quiet, something goes wrong, and you're all in trouble. The client is in trouble, the architect is in trouble, everyone's in trouble, the builder is in trouble. So in reality, according to our regulations, if the client is asking you to do something that is not right, you're supposed to put it in writing, inform the board, and leave. But because people want money,
But where do we find
stay.
this board? You're talking of the board. Do you have
Architects
the...
Registration Board, you can find them at the PKF building, Kamu Plaza, is it? Unkitante, I forget the name of that road, the one that's opposite to Mulago.
So they have a public relations we can contact.
Yes, you can definitely contact them.
Sophie, we are near a site,
Yes.
and I see I see a lot of trucks coming. I don't know whether that is cement premix, already mixed, and
Yeah,
then
with the
they push it
rotating-
up to
yes.
with the rotating. First of all, why does it keep rotating?
Because
Can't it
it's
stop
going to
rotating?
dry. It needs to keep moving, and you need to keep the ratio, otherwise things might sink. It's a different story. I'm not a chemist, I don't know much about cement, but that's my assumption. It can't dry, you need it to be wet. It has to stay
So by
wet.
rotating it, you confuse it and it doesn't dry.
I think so, yeah, it gets the
So
idea. It's
my
in the
point
wind.
here is
Yes.
not many people can afford that truck
Yes,
to keep rotating.
yeah.
But is that premix cement also liable to faking? Can somebody fake it? Or the moment you order for the truck, you're sure everything is safe?
I've had a story where you order the premix and some cement will be taken off along the way. So you order maybe, let's say, a ton, and you'll get 800 kilos, right? So that also happens. So if I know I need 1 ton of cement to pour this floor here, when they bring it and I pour, I assume it's 1 ton of cement. But then it's actually 800. So there's also that, the quantities might not be enough. So people along the way, people connive, the deliverers of the trucks, a lot of people. So there's a lot in the chain that has to be taken care of, right? People who deliver, the people who make the materials, the people who standardize also.
So in other words, you need to supervise even that truck that is moving.
Exactly.
Wow, it's a lot of work to
There's a
to
lot
get
of work,
engaged in.
yes.
But what about the other materials that are used in construction? The wood, the nails. Can you tell our viewers what are the red flags? Which other materials affect in building construction?
Even nails can be faked, because nails, a lot of them are made from, the process. I'm not going to get the process of nails, but a nail might be too weak. I don't know if you've ever tried to use a nail and just keeps bending, right? So they might not be strong enough to hold certain things. I'll give an example with regards to, we don't have a lot of wind problems here, hurricanes, but when you're designing in Louisiana, there's certain types of nails you're supposed to use on the roof for hurricanes, right? There's specific types. So if you don't use that, your roof is bound to blow off when it rains. So we have all these standards, and even things like nails can be faked. And if a nail usually doesn't have, you can't tag or something saying made by this. Maybe Uganda Bati might have, but now we also have other people who might be making nails. So
There are some
now,
sheets.
Yes. So
Those can also be faked.
there are very many things that can be faked, because I mean we get scrap, right? You see all these guys who collect scrap and then they recycle, they burn it, and they make new things. Nails is one of them, right?
And the wood?
Wood, we can't fake wood, but sometimes we use wood that has not dried properly, right? Or doesn't have the right strength, because there are different types of woods. There's the soft woods and the hard woods, right? And you're supposed to use different woods for different things to achieve different things. So sometimes you might use the wrong type of wood, or it's not dry, etc. But I mean, you can't fake the wood, but it's just about age and quality.
Sophie, we're about to close.
Yeah.
I cannot end without asking you your personal experience with counterfeits outside your profession.
Outside my profession, yes. One of I think the things I've been seeing a lot is with regards to cosmetics. right? We have a lot of counterfeits in cosmetics. Women, we use lipstick, we wear eyeliner here and there. You put on some eyeliner and your eyes start to burn, okay? Or you wear some lipstick and you get some sort of allergy. Some people are lucky that they get things that might not be counterfeits per se, but they're just generic and they're just of a lesser quality. But in most cases, we get things that are harmful to our bodies, right? So we have a lot of cosmetics in Uganda. If you see any small little shop, there's all sorts of perfumes, body lotions, here and there. But because people are trying to achieve a certain look and are desperate for a certain look, people buy all sorts of
Especially you, the
things.
youth. you want to be like Kim Kardashian, you want to be like...
I mean, yeah, Kim Kardashian with dreads, but yeah, people want to look a certain way. So they try to buy these things. So they're counterfeits. So if you want something from maybe Sephora, or for those that know Sephora, or you want something from, let's say, Kim Kardashian line, I don't know if she makes makeup or whatever. So if I know that all of you wanted to look like Kim Kardashian, someone's going to exploit that market. And people want to look that way because there's certain expectations. We have expectations. People are expected to look pretty, right? A person will tell you, I want you to look a certain type of way, or else they will not give you a second chance. So our environment, our society is pushing women, especially us youth, to look a certain way, right? So if you as an individual can't come out of it, then someone has to regulate the things that are brought onto the market. It's just that they're very expensive.
The Rasta look you have, I've had there's also fake hair.
Yes.
So even these, I don't know, are they dreadlocks?
Yes.
Is this your hair, first of all? Or
Yes, it is.
It's a Chiwani kind of thing?
No, I don't have time for Chiwani. It's my hair.
It's your hair?
Yeah.
And it's natural?
Yes, it's natural, all the way to...
But I can have some fake dreadlocks and...
Yeah, if I cut off my hair, I can sell it to you and you put it in your hair.
Oh, and I heard the president talking about that Brazilian hair or whatever.
Yeah, Brazilian, etc. Yeah, that's fake hair. That's also one, I don't know if it's fake hair, but also there's Brazilian hair. I have no idea how that hair works. As you can see, I have locks. But there's fake everything because we're trying to achieve a certain look, right? We want to look a certain type of way, so we try. So if I know that lighter skinned women are more beautiful, I'll try to get all those things that make me lighter. Now, people who counterfeit will target that market because they know brown is beautiful, okay, which is totally wrong.
Talking about brown is beautiful.
Yes.
There is a frenzy now on social media with Afghan women that they are going to come and so on. Do you think it's something to do with their color because they are brown? Guys here are crazy about brown.
No, it's a shiny new toy. That's it.
It's a shiny
new toy. Something exciting. Eventually it will pass.
But do you think these crazy guys here who are trying to dress up now in the Afghan wear to welcome, I don't know whether they're doing it for fun or, but as a Muslim, you think they would have a chance with the Afghans if they came?
No. As a Muslim,
and you start rapping as a Ugandan, you think competition is coming?
No, of course not. There's no competition. There are 2,000 people. 1,800 might be men. Actually, shit would work to my advantage. Okay, but the truth is, our cultures are different. If we start looking at cultures, our cultures are different. Right now, it's just hype. It's hype because something new coming in, but at the end of the day, our cultures don't let us mix.
Or do you think guys are just bored?
They're bored. There's nothing to do, and it's. I don't want to say they're unemployed, but they could be. But our society, right now, people pass time on social media, and people are very brave on social media. People will say anything on social media. You meet them in person, they're as meek as a mouse, right? But so it's just a passing phase, really.
It will go. So your message to the youth who are looking to bleach is what? As a fellow youth.
Don't do it. Why? What are the long-term conditions? What are the long-term effects? What are the long-term symptoms? Why are you removing something that's natural from your skin?
So black is beautiful.
Of course, black is beautiful. It has always been.
It's original.
It's original, yes.
The president the other day was lambasting guys who misuse or are too much on social media. And I know you, the youth, you are heavily you are resident there, basically. You have plots and plots of land. You have properties on social media. What is your take on social media and the youth? Do you think this is something that is ruining your perspective of life? It is making you guys live an artificial life? The youth and social media, what do you say?
Youth and social media. The problem, one, let's define youth, right? So depending on which country or which definitions, like 18 to 30 something, right? But people are getting on social media, children are getting on social media. People are easily influenced, especially in that developmental stage, right? So you learn, you see all these things that you want to do, that you want to see. So social media, to me, it's a bad idea, right? In terms of
yeah, sure. If your fellow youth here, you
yes,
say
in
that.
terms of character development. Okay, it's a bad idea because most of these people are portraying things that are not true, right? So right now there's actually a movement where they're saying every time they take pictures, they should advertise in the corner and say this picture has been changed. You've used Photoshop or something like that to change it. Because there's so many people, so many teenagers who want to look a certain way, are getting plastic surgery here and there.
Which is not achievable in reality.
It's not achievable in reality. So social media has been bad in that sense. But we're in the digital age. It's not going anywhere. So we have to just find a way to police it. So such as every time you advertise something, you need to make it clear that it's false. It's false advertisement. It's the only way, but it can't go anywhere because we're in the digital age. We are not going back to buying newspapers. Some of us, anyway. Most of us. I don't know how many people have bought. How many
Have
youth?
you ever bought a newspaper?
I've never bought a newspaper in my life, unless I bought it for somebody
So you're
else.
not informed. You don't know what's happening in the country.
I am. I'm informed. The news is on the phone. All my information is on here. I don't need a newspaper. The newspaper is online. New Vision is online. Monitor is online. And you just have to look for it. So it's not that we're not informed. So yes, the president is against social media, but one, right now, the only way he can get to the youth is through social media. No one turns on UBC. Maybe our parents do. But we get our information. It's not going anywhere. We're not going to close off and throw away computers. So we just have to find a way to deal with it. But it's a really bad thing for especially people who have not found themselves. When you haven't found yourself, you're going to try and look at this person and that person, this person to mold yourself, right? So you need to be able to, I feel like social media, that's why I do not agree with people who give children Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts. It's a bad idea. She's going to see, I'll give an example of, I don't know, I can't think of, like, let's say Hannah Montana, that's really old. You'll see Hannah Montana, who is Miley Cyrus, and she's acting a certain way on TV, and you want the same thing. So you need to, I think even parents, people themselves need to be responsible for how much content they expose to their children who are still developing, right? Who have not found themselves. And also the people who post this information should be held accountable for some of the things they do. So if you are posting that you wake up looking at 10 every day, that person should also show us what they look like without the makeup. Because it's a big problem, honestly.
It is a big problem.
Yeah, so someone there has to be some policies on what's going on
how
in
to
social
regulate
media.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, Sophie, production says we need to stop here. Otherwise,
Okay.
they would have loved to continue hearing from you. But
No
we
problem.
need to have your last word. What's your message to the youth on this subject of fakes, which you've said are everywhere? What should they do, and how important is this to their life?
I think I'll say it in how I do it, right? I forget sometimes. So when you're buying key items, the youth is exposed to cell phones. Most of them.
To cell phones?
Yes. We check things like QR codes. Like if I bought this water, I should be able to scan this and it tells me whether it's a genuine product or not, right? But they should also take an extra step to find out what they're buying, right? You can go online and look it up and say what do the genuine...
There's a lot of fake online also.
Yes, but if you go to if let's say you wanted to buy Renzori, if you go to Renzori will show you what a real Renzori bottle looks like.
So you use your phone to scan.
Yeah.
So you're encouraging all the youth to download
Well,
those
the
applications?
problem is some of them don't have these phones. They can't afford to have a QR code scanner. So there has to be, someone has to be able to tell people that these are the items that are fake on the market, right? The same way the petrol stations do it. The petrol stations will tell you all the people who are selling fake fuel. So someone needs to be able to say all these stores, or you and Uganda National Bureau, what's called Bureau of Standards, need to say all these are the items that are fake on the market.
So you're asking them to be on the lookout,
yeah, they
to
have
be vigilant.
They have to, because yes, I can scan my water, but not everybody can scan their water. And not even those who could scan their water don't know that they can. Right? Did you know you can scan something and it tells you that it's a fake? No. So the Uganda Bureau of Standards needs to be able to tell people, advertise and say, all these are people selling fake things. This is what's on the market right now, and it's fake. But if they don't tell us, no one's going to know. But people also need to be responsible for their own safety. So if you want to buy a certain type of cream, research it. I don't usually buy things without looking at the ingredients, which could also be fake. You look at the ingredients and you...
But at least there's some level of protection that you get.
And then you also Google that item and see if do they have a website at least. There are some master scammers, of course, yes, you can't escape some things, but some things are a little bit more legit than others. So,
okay, so I think we need to end here. This has been Sophie Balunywa, an architect. The message here from Sophie is for the youth, you need to take responsibility for your own safety with what you're buying. Take time to find out what you're buying, where you're buying it from, look at the specifications. If you can scan the barcode to confirm that is genuine. We've had a wonderful discussion here with Sophie. We had our highlight on the collapsing buildings. As an architect, she's shed some light on what is causing the continuous building collapse from a young architect's perspective. We're going to be looking out for the regulators, the National Building Review Board, the Architects Registration Board,
and the Uganda Society of Architects.
She has beef here with us. She thinks we are to blame for the way the youth are. But anyway, we need to give a chance to the regulators, the seniors in this building construction sector to also come. Hopefully next week, they should be able to come and also give their side of the story. So that has been the League of the Genuine discussion with me, Fred Muwema. Until next episode, bye-bye.